Hi everyone, and welcome to our Faster Way to Fat Loss training, how to burn belly fat in your mid-30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond. This is a hot topic.
Yes.
I'm very excited to dive in. My name is Amanda Tress. I'm the founder and CEO of The Faster Way.
I'm Alex, and I'm Wellness Director for Faster Way.
Okay, Alex, I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Okay.
You're gonna tell us how many trips around the sun you have completed
Oh my goodness.
and also where you're from.
I'm from Brazil, Amanda,
Okay.
and I have completed 50.
50 trips around the sun.
Yes.
You are 50 years young.
Yes.
That's fantastic. Continue to comment. I know we're getting personal. We're going.
Yes, we're going there.
We're diving in. So I recently turned 38.
Okay.
It's really interesting because the pandemic years flew by.
Yeah.
I feel like I was 33 or 34 just a minute ago. I turned 34 in April of 2020. And now all of a sudden I'm 38. Time just absolutely
It
flies.
does. I feel like I was 40 the other day. I'm 50 today.
Yeah. So let us know. And here's the deal. I've already said it, but it's true. This is a very hot topic, how to burn belly fat in your mid to late 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond. And I've worked with over 450,000 clients. That's right, 450,000 clients in the Faster Way to Fat Loss and empowered women and men to burn fat effectively. But probably the most common question I receive is from women in perimenopause and menopause who say, how do I lose weight? How do I burn fat around my midsection in particular? Because listen, the strategies I was implementing in the past when I was 25 are no longer working.
Right.
And now that I'm 38, I also can relate with some of these items. I was pregnant and breastfeeding for about 12 years. And now I'm kind of in the throes of perimenopause as a 38-year-old. And it is true, you do have to switch it up a bit on the strategies. And tell us about your experience because you can also relate to the
Absolutely.
women listening.
I can 100% relate. And the thing is, Amanda, I've been doing this for 10 years, right? I've been doing what? I've been working with women and hormones for 10 years. I'm 50 now, so I was able to see myself 10 years ago and work on myself already. So in my 50s, I don't suffer as much as I would have been if I hadn't done some things way before perimenopause and menopause. And the main thing is that people, I think we're not really thinking about that because we're in our 20s and everything is going well, you're eating anything you want, you go to bed whatever you want. And then next thing you know, it feels like what you just said. It feels like was like yesterday and I just woke up today and I can't lose the belly fat. That's that feeling we get. But in reality, we've just been doing the wrong things all along. We just had all the hormones protecting us. And then when you hit that 35, 36, 40, then your progesterone start to drop and then the changes start to happen because progesterone is the first hormone that start to drop in menopause. So with that, a lot of things just kind of, go out of whack.
It's the domino impact.
Yes.
But as you mentioned, maybe we weren't doing things correctly all along. And here's what we want you to know. First and foremost, there is hope for you. Whether you are 39, 49, 59, 69, maybe you're in your 70s, 80s, there is hope for you. And something that brings me so much joy as the founder of Faster Way to Fat Loss is when clients come to us and say, Amanda, it feels like opposite day first and foremost, because the strategies you're telling me to implement are completely different and separate from what I've done in the past, but the fat is finally melting off my body. I had a client who I used to train in the gym years and years ago, probably, over 15 years ago. And at the time, she was a little bit younger, 30s, and she was able to get away with eating junk food. Okay, she was able to get away with eating some foods that maybe wouldn't necessarily be on my list of approved foods today. She worked out, she exercised, she was getting stronger. But then just a couple years ago, she called me and she said, listen, my body has changed. Things have changed. I have this muffin top around my midsection. Okay. She's like, I don't know what to do. I'm trying to limit my calories. I'm trying to walk and exercise and this and that, but I'm unable to burn the fat and lose the weight. So I got her enrolled in the Faster Way. And she called me one weekend and she goes, Amanda, there's no way I'm going to lose weight on your program. There is no way this is going to work for me because I'm eating more than I have in years. I'm actually pulling back on my exercise.
Yes.
She said, it's just not going to work. And 4 weeks later, I said, I need you to trust the process. I need you to just stick with me. 4 weeks later, she called me. She goes, I had to get a new belt. My pants are falling off. I can't believe it.
That's awesome.
I never thought this would work for me, and yet it does.
That's awesome.
So again, first and foremost, there is hope for you. Second, we personally can relate. Most of our trainers in the Faster Way are actually in their 40s, 50s. Okay, most of our trainers are in perimenopause, menopause. So we are living this day by day ourselves at the Faster Way HQ. And so we know what you're going through. We understand the frustration. We understand that you might have tried so many other diet programs. I understand that you might be thinking right here and right now, maybe I should go ahead and do that weight loss shot. Maybe I should go ahead and do that extreme diet. Maybe I should go ahead because, listen, I've tried everything else. Nothing is working. I'm ready to get extreme. You don't need to get extreme, and you do not have to suffer in order to burn fat. Okay, you don't have to suffer in order to burn fat. Before we dive into specific strategies that will help us to burn fat around the midsection, I want to explain a little bit more about the science. You mentioned progesterone, so we'll revisit that. Share with us what is happening in the mid to late 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond that is preventing us from burning that midsection fat.
Yeah. So one thing that I see on social media, Amanda, all the time, people talk about cortisol.
Yes.
All the time. And the thing about cortisol in perimenopause and menopause, here's what's happening. Remember this, progesterone is the calming hormone. That's what regulates your brain, and you take the time to choose the food, go to the grocery store, you're not as stressed out, you're sleeping well. Once that hormone starts to go down, then your sympathetic nervous system start to kick in. So you are more alert, more awake, and sometimes even more anxious because your brain, it's now super stimulated and it doesn't have the benefits of progesterone to calm yourself down. With that being said, yes, you had cortisol release before, but now, because you have less progesterone or no progesterone, now the cortisol becomes the dominant hormone. So now what that happens is cortisol, remember, cortisol is the hormone that makes us run, meaning we're gonna run from the tiger, we're gonna run from the bear, but in reality, we're not running anywhere. We're just sitting in the office, stressed out in the front of the computer.
I'm running from my kids, from my 5 kids.
Well, you can do that, but you still can't run, right? The cortisol is still chronically being released. But it will do what it needs to do, which is to release glucose, so to give energy for your muscles for you to run. But because you're really not running, now your insulin spikes. Now, with that insulin spike, what does it do? It wants to move that glucose from the blood to the tissues. But remember, you're not running. So it's gonna sit somewhere, and it's gonna sit in the belly fat.
Interesting.
And for a lot of people like me, Amanda, working in the office, sitting sometimes 10 hours a day, I'm literally not running anywhere. I'm just stressed out in the chair. So all of that glucose being accumulated in my body and all that insulin being released, I am gonna have that belly fat if I don't have a plan, if I don't have a strategy to counteract nature. Basically, that's what's going on. It's a natural process. And as you go along in the perimenopausal process, which can take 20 years, okay? So it's not overnight that you keep fighting. It doesn't mean you gain all the weight in 20 years, but you constantly fighting. You go on a diet and then you gain weight again and you go on another diet because the root cause of your body has never been balanced. I can't say fixed because your body will also and always need to release cortisol, which is a good thing. You want that. But what you want to do is to be able to balance that somehow. And a lot of us, we don't know how to do that.
Right.
If we don't have the right information, like how do I do that? I don't know. Is that my food? Is that my exercise? And how do I eat and exercise? I need help, right? So we know that, as even for me as a medical professional, I know these things happen in our body. And for my clients, I can say all the right things. I can say, you need to lower your stress. You need to meditate. You need to pray. But it's kind of like, right? It's like, it's difficult. It's easy to say. I can sit here and say, but if I'm not offering you a tool for you to do that, how are you going to do that?
Yeah.
That's where you come in.
That's right.
You offer my patients the tool of how to do that, of how to manage those hormones naturally, because they're going to do what they're going to do. Right? They're going to have to release at the right time to protect you. That's why you have cortisol. Cortisol is a good thing. So you can have that release. It's actually a hormone that helps with your movements, with your joints. So you want to have that. But what you don't want is to feed the cortisol, meaning to feed that glucose, to feed into the insulin release. So what does that mean? That means I'm naturally going to have the cortisol release because there's a lot of stress in my life, and it is what it is. But I have to minimize by whole food nutrition. Instead of having, let's say, a sugary protein bar because my brain is exhausted and I need glucose for me to think, maybe I just need to go whole food nutrition beforehand and protein beforehand. You have to address these things before they happen. It's not like you're going to wake up in the morning and say, oh, today I'm just going to eat protein and the next day you're going to forget about it. No, there's a whole process in which you can nurture your body and help your body to navigate through these changes. Those changes are not bad. They are a natural process of the body. We just have to support them.
Yeah. Okay. I learn something every time we chat, which I think is fantastic. Alex is the queen of hormones herself. You helped me with hormones many years ago and we became friends. And ultimately I was like, you got to work with the faster way because there's so many of us that could use the education and knowledge that you have, this expertise. So let me try to say this in layman's terms and make sure that I understand what we're talking about and where we're going. So you mentioned that progesterone is the very first hormone in perimenopause, which typically starts around mid-30s, that starts to decline. Now, for me personally, I have a history of PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome. Many of you are familiar with that. You might also struggle with PCOS. I feel like for those of us with a history of PCOS in our mid to late 30s, it kind of gets exacerbated once again. It's like now, we've had the babies, we're postpartum, and now we have kind of a flare up again with some of these symptoms of insulin resistance. I know I have experienced that. So the low progesterone is a big issue because then we do have more stress and anxiety. You mentioned cortisol. There's a lot of misinformation about cortisol. People vilify cortisol. Yeah. I love cortisol. Yeah. My cortisol, very high in the morning. Yep. I wake up, I'm refreshed, I'm ready to rock and roll. It declines steadily throughout the day, does exactly what I need it to do. Cortisol is positive. Yeah. And anyone who's talking on Instagram right now about cortisol and, there's a new kind of cortisol coach thing happening on social, and there's a lot of kind of misinformation, unfortunately, that is being spewed about the internet. But cortisol, it is important. However, we need to mind the cortisol. And you said the word balance, which I think is so key. Let's discuss the role of estrogen a little bit in addition to thyroid. And then we are going to share with you some very tangible strategies that you can start implementing today in order to start burning belly fat.
Okay. The interesting thing is most people that have PCOS, since you brought up PCOS, most people that have diagnostic of PCOS, they started out with insulin resistance. Okay, so you see how the process starts way before perimenopause. Yeah. So what happens is, now remember what I said, if you have all this insulin released, insulin also does this thing that lowers progesterone. So you naturally will have a drop in progesterone in your perimenopause, but now you have another extra factor helping to lower your progesterone, which is insulin. So the insulin is going to drop the progesterone even more. Now you have low progesterone. And now you have estrogen dominance. That's what estrogen dominance is. When you have low progesterone and all you have is estrogen. So now that can be a little tricky because there's different kinds of estrogen, Amanda. There's the good one, like the bad one, we call it, the inactive estrogen. And some of those inactive estrogens can cause a lot of bloating, a lot of swelling. So when women say to me, yeah, I have belly fat, but I'm also feeling bloated. That means you have inflammation. You don't have progesterone. Progesterone is a major diuretic. People are afraid sometimes of progesterone because they think they're going to gain weight, and it's not true. Progesterone is a diuretic. But what happens is this cycle where you have insulin, low progesterone, high estrogen. Now, because the estrogen can be super high, the thyroid has estrogen receptors. So that's going to stimulate your thyroid to produce more thyroid hormones, which you might think it's a good thing. And it could be a good thing. But as anything in the body when it comes to hormones, if you overstimulate the thyroid to produce thyroid hormones, you can have something that we call reverse T3. And the reverse is the opposite. Now everything is going to slow down even more. You see, so now you're thinking, well, I have plenty of estrogen, my thyroid's gonna go great. Not necessarily. More is not better when it comes to hormone. It's always about balance. You have to learn how to balance everything. Estrogen, of course, it's great for your brain, it's great for inflammation, but everything and anything when it comes to hormones at the right dose. You really want to balance those things,
Yes. Okay, I'm already overwhelmed, which is why we're now going to share some of the ways that we can start to resolve the hormone imbalance.
Yes.
Because again, the key is balance. And unfortunately, many times clients come into the faster way to fat loss and they message me on Instagram and they say, man, I've been trying to eat only 1,200 calories a day or 1,500 calories a day. I've been training for a half marathon. I've been going to a studio and doing high intensity interval training 6 or 7 days a week. I've been walking on top of that and I can't lose weight. Well, here's the deal, everybody listening. It's very, very common, especially for us women, to actually cause hormone imbalance. Okay, I'm just going to tee us up and then we're going to dive into the strategies. I have very close friends who say, man, I'm running every day. I'm only having 12 to 1,300 calories a day. I'm going to XYZ studio class. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I look pregnant. I look 7 months pregnant. I look whatever the case may be. And I say, unfortunately, you are running yourself out of hormones.
Yes.
Your body is actually in survival and starvation mode.
Yes.
And when you really step back, so everybody, let's just kind of step back here. When you really think about it and use common sense, it does start to all add up. Okay, so I'm not eating enough to fuel my body. I'm under consuming.
Yeah.
And I'm exercising a lot. I'm over exercising. Guess what? Our bodies are created to survive.
Yeah.
We go into survival mode where our body signals to store fat. Specifically, where does it go first? For so many of us, it's the midsection, it's the triceps, it's the thighs. Okay, that's where it often goes first for many of us. And when you really think about it, it actually starts to make sense. I'm not eating enough. I'm exercising a ton.
Yeah.
So my body is going to go into survival mode. And again, a lot of the feedback we get from clients is it feels like opposite day.
Right.
What we tell people to do is opposite.
Yeah.
So let's dive into a couple of the strategies that we want you to learn about and start to focus on. I do want to dive right into whole food nutrition. Okay, we're going to talk about whole food nutrition. This is one of the things that I really want you guys to take away from the training. Many of you are eating lean cuisine and you're grabbing the Hot Pockets and you're going for the 100-calorie snack packs, okay, the wheat thins, the mini wheats. I understand. I was there. I used to go to Subway, have my Subway lunch, then I'd have a string cheese in the afternoon with my low-fat yogurt, then I'd have a 100-calorie Quaker Oats Chewy bar. Okay, don't sue me, Quaker, or anybody I just mentioned, but I totally understand this because I was there too. I'm on the go. I'm a working woman.
Right.
I have to grab things that I can easily kind of take, to the office, grab and go. But these highly, highly, grossly processed foods are absolutely sabotaging your efforts. Okay? If you're just simply looking at these calories, oh, it's only 100 calorie snack bag. It's only, I'm only having 1,100 calories a day, 1,200 calories a day. The processed foods are absolutely sabotaging your efforts in so many ways. So what is whole food nutrition?
Yes. So that's a question that everybody asks me in the office all the time. And I think that people just overthink this.
Yes.
It's actually not that complicated.
No.
Right? Whole food nutrition, it's your the outer part of the grocery store, right?
Yep.
The vegetables and the protein, the actual protein that comes from a mother, right? Amanda always says
Yes.
that. If it comes from the earth, it
Yes.
comes from, that's whole food nutrition. It's very easy. I will say sometimes, Amanda, to my clients, if it comes in a box with a bunch of ingredients, try not to reach for that. Try to have in your house the most amount of food nutrition and carry that with you. And people tell me, like when you're talking about the working women, right? Like if we have to travel, I've done that. I'm in the office, I have to travel, I have to do conferences, I have to do courses. I would be in the airport sometimes and all you have is potato chips and all kinds of like, oh my goodness, it's everything in here is just in the bag with all kinds of ingredients. But there are places sometimes at the airport that you can have, I remember this one time, it was like a midnight flight. I got a tomato. It was just like a salad, had just tomato, cucumbers, and like one other thing. And I said, well, that's the best thing I can do, but I am going to stick with that because you don't want to cause inflammation in your gut because we're already talking about belly fat. The worst thing you can do is to sabotage yourself. So it can be done.
Yeah.
If you're busy and you're working, there's this little tricks that only the faster way has that I've seen it.
Yeah, whole food nutrition,
Yeah.
if it comes from the ground or has a mother, and you're right, it doesn't have to be complicated, but the oils in so many of these processed foods, the ingredients. So in the US, and I could get on a soapbox about this, I think we recently did a podcast about it, the number of ingredients in common foods in the US versus other countries,
Right.
it's astounding. So you can go to Europe and pick up a pack of Skittles, and it will actually have less harmful ingredients than the Skittles in the US. Because in the US, the FDA, they don't have as many regulations around ingredients, where in Europe, it's very difficult to get things approved. And many people say, oh, I went to Europe this summer, I traveled and I ate the bread and I had the dairy and I felt fine. And, it is a thing. It's absolutely a thing.
Yeah.
Whole food nutrition is absolutely key. Recently, we did a training with one of our board members, Dr. Bill Campbell, and he shared a study about subjects who were fed processed food diets versus whole food nutrition diets, the same amount of calories, but the people who had the processed food diet gained far more weight than people who had the same amount of calories in the whole food nutrition diet because their body was able to break it down, was able to process it, actually took more energy to break down whole food than it does processed food. So whole food nutrition is key. In the faster way, we do gluten-free, dairy-free food logs. Okay, gluten-free, dairy-free. The gross manipulation of our food is what causes inflammation when it comes to these dairy items. Absolutely. Raw dairy for me is not a problem. I can have raw dairy. But when it comes to these Yoplait yogurts and these string cheeses, and that is American cheese. I mean, you want to put some bad ingredients into your body, have, some American cheese. And again, I don't want to get sued by any of these brands, but it is what it is. So whole food nutrition is a really important component of being sure that your body is able to process food correctly and use that food as fuel for your day, for your workouts. Not only are some of you listening and you're saying, man, I've been trying my best, I'm exercising, I'm eating a limited amount of calories and I can't lose the weight. Not only that, you're tired.
Right.
Okay? A lot of you are tired. You're hitting that 2 p.m., 3 p.m. wall of exhaustion. You're tired during the day and then you're up in the middle of the night. You're up, you're wired and tired at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. That is a problem. And if something seems off, that means something probably is off, okay? But having processed foods is not doing you any favors. I strongly recommend that you transition to whole food nutrition. If you're not sure what to do or what to pull or cook, we have extensive meal plans, delicious, easy to make meals in our program. It helps to get rid of bloating as well. Okay, so let's talk about another strategy that I want everyone to learn about and implement, and it is intermittent fasting.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Intermittent fasting. So talk a little bit about intermittent fasting and specifically how it impacts insulin.
Yes, absolutely. which is a eating window that
Yes.
you call it, meaning if you don't eat for a certain amount of time. But scientifically speaking, when people say to me, well, but I don't eat for 3 hours, that's not what we're talking about.
That's not intermittent
That's not intermittent fasting. What we're talking about is to give your body enough digestive rest to be able to lower your inflammation, to drop your insulin, because this is the key. If you keep hitting that insulin and you have a cookie and you drink coffee from Starbucks or something with a lot of cream and sugar, and you do that every 2 hours, every hour, you're never gonna get your insulin low. It doesn't matter if you're doing low calories, that's still not gonna happen. You have to give your body digestive rest, which helps to lower the insulin, but also it causes your body to eat up the bad cells. That's what we call apoptosis. So it triggers something in your body, it triggers your immune system, yet you end up being healthier and you feel the brain clarity. When people say to me, oh my gosh, the brain fog is gone, that's what it is. Your immune system is 70% in your gut. So if you give your stomach, your gut, your intestines some break, it's just gonna give to you back, and you're gonna feel the energy, you're gonna feel brain clarity, and you're gonna drop your insulin.
Yeah. Intermittent fasting is not a diet. This is a big piece of confusion.
Yes.
It is simply an eating schedule. In the Faster Way, we promote a 16-8 protocol, a 12-12 protocol, a 14-10 protocol, a 24-hour fast on occasion. Typically what I do is I stop eating around 6 or 7 p.m. And then the next day, I don't eat breakfast in the morning. I don't break my fast first thing in the morning, which is confusing because many of us have been told that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Guess who came up with that slogan? General Mills.
Oh,
All right,
wow,
Kellogg's.
okay.
Okay, it wasn't
That makes
researchers or scientists or dietitians. It was actually a marketing ploy for breakfast cereals. I don't eat anything until about 11. Okay, so I'm fasting for 16 hours. And for me, that works extremely well. Now, you mentioned something to me recently that I thought was really great, because many of our clients in perimenopause and menopause come in and they've heard from different doctors, they've heard from experts that they shouldn't fast because it will cause stress, which is true. Fasting is a stressor, okay? But there is a lot of confusion. And what you have said is, listen, you might not be in a place right now, today, where you can or should do a 16-hour fast, but you should be working toward that as a goal.
Right.
Maybe you are not metabolically in a good place where you should fast today, but that doesn't mean that we don't want you to get there over time. I believe that everybody listening should at minimum do it 12-12. Okay, so you're fasting for at minimum 12 hours. Let's call it 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Maybe you push that 7 p.m. to 8 or 10 as you start to kind of get into the faster weight lifestyle. Let me just quickly share the biggest mistake that I see women make when fasting. Biggest mistake I see, and this can be very, very dangerous, is that women will come in and they say, man, I tried fasting, but it was causing my hair to fall out. I actually started gaining more weight when I was fasting. Here's the deal. Many people mistake fasting for a diet, and they simply skip a meal, and then they're not eating enough of the right foods, whole food nutrition we've already discussed, during the feeding window. Okay, so they have 8 hours to eat instead of the typical 14. And what are they doing? They're just failing to eat enough. And then, unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, your body will go into starvation mode. Okay, you can negatively impact your hormones and exacerbate the issues that you're dealing with right now if you don't eat enough of the right foods. You're going to run yourselves out of hormones. You're going to cause starvation mode. Same thing could be said when you start to look at some of these more extreme fixes where you're under-consuming. If you're under-eating chronically for a long period of time, you are going to have issues. And not only that, the research shows, the science shows that if you under-consume for a long period of time and then you start refeeding the amount that your body needs to function optimally, you will get fat faster. If you underconsume, if you undereat for a long period of time, and then you start refeeding at the amount your body needs, you will actually get fat faster.
Makes
Okay,
sense,
the
yeah.
research, the science
I think
shows
I've done
this.
that.
Yes, we've all done it.
Yeah.
We've all done it. Many of us have had disordered eating, specifically if you have any history in the weight loss industry, if you have any history in the nutrition and fitness industry. Many of us have dealt with disordered eating in the past. We've undereaten. We've been told by the Biggest Loser 15 years ago that you should take your ideal weight, multiply it times 11, and only eat that many calories. That is nonsense for me. That's like, I'm like 5'2", you're what, 5 foot? I can't live off of 1,200 calories a day, 1,300 calories.
way.
I mean, I do 2,300 calories a day. But many of us have heard from these doctors or experts or nutritionists that you should eat less.
Yes.
We've heard from the weight loss industry to eat less and exercise more in order to burn fat, where in fact, you guys, it does the opposite. If you undereat, if you don't eat enough, and you are exercising and you are fasting and you have stress in your life, then you will start to gain weight. And that's exactly what is happening to many of you. It's exactly what is happening. I chatted about whole food nutrition. We've briefly touched on intermittent fasting. We want you as a third strategy to eat enough of the right foods: protein, fats, carbohydrates, and fiber. Okay,
Yes.
proteins, fats, carbohydrates, fiber. It's so key.
Yeah.
Protein is one of the biggest things that we see women under consuming on.
Yes, absolutely. And since we're talking about perimenopause, you can't, like, sometimes people don't believe this, and it's hard to believe. Like you said, we've been told these things for so many years, but you actually need carbohydrates.
Yes.
I know we talk about how protein is super important. I think we kind of got it. We just probably don't know like how much protein to eat. But I don't think most people get it that carbohydrates are important, especially in perimenopause and menopause, because now you have less hormones. The only actually good source of energy for the brain is carbohydrates. Of course, we're not talking here about cupcakes and, icing and sugar. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about whole food carbohydrates. Your body can utilize that so much, especially your brain. And I'm a big proponent of brain health, Amanda, because I feel like that's where everything starts. If you have enough energy for your brain, you're not hungry, you're not in a bad mood, you can actually function better, you can actually be creative and make better decisions. That's something that a lot of us in menopause, we struggle with that.
Yeah.
We struggle. Sometimes we can be working for 20, 30 years and you're highly professional at what you do, and all of a sudden you find yourself with so much brain fog and you don't know, like, I don't remember something that I used to do all the time, Alex. I used to have these clients in my office. Yeah. And it's that lack of energy in the brain. And if you're just eating protein bars that you grab someplace else, yes, you get energy, but maybe for 20 minutes. This is not sustaining you. Yeah. So yes, your body will need enough protein to utilize that as energy, but you also need those carbs.
That is so true. I recently had a client who was very diligent about tracking her protein macros. She was hitting that protein, but very tired. And she spoke with you and then spoke with some of our other concierge team members right here at the Fastway HQ and realized that she wasn't consuming enough carbs. Right. Starts bumping up the carbs. And next thing I know, she's like, yeah, overnight I started feeling better. I realized I was under consuming on carbohydrates. Yep. Now we're going to get some trolls in the comments because here's the deal. Carbs have been vilified for years. You've heard of Atkins, you've heard of South Beach, you've heard of keto, you've heard of all of these extreme low carb diets. I don't want to live in a world where I can't eat a banana.
I know.
So many clients come into the Faster Way and they've been afraid to eat a banana for decades.
What about potatoes? I love potatoes.
Potatoes are fair game. Eat as many potatoes as you want. Our bodies do need carbs. It's controversial. Again, there's a lot of misinformation, but what you can do is try it. We have a round of the Faster Way coming up. It is specifically for women who want to burn fat in their mid-30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond. Okay, and the best thing you can do is try it. Follow our meal plan. Do the intermittent fasting. You are going to be carb cycling. That's a strategy that we will train you and educate you on in depth. The other thing that's really unique about Faster Way, we don't have time to go into it, but we pair strategic 30-minute workouts with our effective food cycle. On certain days, we have more carbs and we do a total body strength training workout. On other days, we have less carbs and we do high intensity interval training. We do educate you regarding that in the Faster Way to Fat Loss. But again, we've had 1,000 clients go through the faster way and absolutely thrive implementing strategies that seem counterintuitive.
Right.
Implementing basically the strategies that are opposite from what you've tried in the past. And we just ask you to trust us. Your satisfaction is absolutely my personal guarantee or your money back. It's only a $250 investment. You receive a certified coach who's going to cheerlead you, answer questions, keep you accountable. That's often what I say. It's like, I don't even need a trainer so much as I need someone to just keep me accountable, tell me what to do, when to do, why to do. But we hope that this training has been even just a little bit interesting and valuable for you. There is hope for you. There is hope for everyone to be highly successful. That is why we're here. We are not promoting a crash diet. We are not promoting pills or shots or anything extreme. We are promoting the fact that, listen, your body was not created with a defect. We just simply haven't been supporting it in the way that we need to in order for it to function optimally. And we want to empower you to maximize your metabolism, and you absolutely can with the Faster Way to Fat Loss. So we would love to see you in our 6-week program, and hopefully we'll be hearing your wins in the coming weeks.
Yes.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.